Hi, welcome to another episode of Practical Organic Living. In today's episode, we're going to show you how to grow, harvest, and use our fava beans. So fava beans, also known as horse beans or broad beans, are edible type of bean that people usually harvest during the spring. It has a lot of uses, especially as a ground cover or cover crop. So there's a couple of reasons why we like to grow fava beans in the winter. Not only is it a great ground cover and a cover crop, but in our case, we like eating the fava beans. So another reason why we like to grow fava beans in the winter is because it's a nitrogen fixing crop. So you can see there's gonna be white nitrogen nodules by the roots, and what happens is that the fava beans essentially pulls the nitrogen from the air and puts it into the ground into a particular formula and a compound that the plants can actually use to grow. So by growing fava beans all around the trees and also the dragon fruit, we don't have to fertilize our dragon fruit or our fruit trees, in this case our peach trees, with nitrogen fertilizer. All right, so when should you grow your fava beans? So in our growing zone, which is zone 9B, we typically plant our fava beans in November. You can actually plant it anytime between October and December. And we're gonna plant our fava beans all along the fruit trees here. All right, so another question I get asked is, how do you actually grow fava beans? To grow fava beans, you want to actually direct sow it outside. You don't want to plant it inside and then transplant it outside. So here's a couple examples of us growing these in the ground, but over here, behind me, I have some fava beans that I actually did not grow or buy from seed. I just put the pods from the previous season into the ground, and then they just sprouted up a couple days ago. So fava beans are extremely easy to grow from seed. So now that I've showed you why, when, how, and what to plant, we're gonna bring you along the journey as our fava bean grows from seed to harvest. And we'll harvest a couple of fava beans and show you how you can use the fava beans in a dish in a couple of months. So see you in the spring. So as you can see, over the past couple months, the fava beans have grown pretty quickly. So now it's early May and the fava beans are ready to harvest now. Usually the fava beans take a little bit longer, but because this year has been pretty warm, the fava beans are a little bit earlier than usual. So before I start picking the fava beans, I'm gonna let you know when you know the fava beans are ready. The basic test is how big it is. So usually fava beans have about 4 or 5 beans a pod, depending on what variety you have. And you wanna feel it. If it's hard and the beans inside look pretty big, then it's probably ready to pick. So let's pick this one here. And next thing you wanna do, if you want to be sure that it's ready, is you can peel it. So I'm gonna shuck it right here. And as you can see, there's gonna be a little lining here. If you're able to peel something like that, that means the bean's probably ready. And now let me open this up to show you what's inside. You can see there's 1 bean, 2 beans, 3 beans, and 4 beans. And they're all spaced pretty closely to each other, and that's what you want. So this means that this particular bean is definitely ready to harvest. You can pull out a root here, and this is what I mean by the importance of planting fava beans to enrich your soil. There's alien looking white things by the roots. And those aren't nematodes or bad things. Those are just nitrogen nodules that in the dragon fruit in the back can use to grow. So this is why growing fava beans is so important for your soil. All right, so now what I'm gonna do is just spend an hour or so harvesting all the fava beans I have over here. So normally I just pick the big ones. The small ones over here aren't very useful for cooking, but what they are useful is for recycling this green energy and this nutrition back in the soil. So usually I just put it back in the ground and let this decompose. I'm gonna first harvest the fava beans and then cut these into smaller pieces so they can decompose in my small urban backyard. So what I'm gonna do now is harvest a couple of bucketfuls and use maybe a quarter or half of the bucket to make a delicious dish in the house a little bit later. So I'll show you what the resulting harvest looks like in about an hour. So see you then.
So there are many ways of making delicious things out of fava beans, and today we're going to show you how we make our own version of avocado fava bean toast. So these are fava beans that I blanched and peeled yesterday, and you can see these are beautiful, vibrant green color. Okay, so here we have the fava beans, and I also have 2 small avocados that we got from Whole Foods. This is plain Levant bread, and then here is like the secret weapon for this recipe. It's chunky live from Single Thread. So basically this contains sesame oil, garlic, scallion, ginger, red chili flake, shallot, almond, sesame seed, salt, sancho pepper, and brown sugar. And so this already has a good amount of salt, so I'm not going to salt any of the other ingredients that I'm preparing today. So let's get started. So I'm actually going to mash these with a masher first. If you like it a little more mashed, you can mash it a little more. But if you like a little more texture, I would just leave some beans intact. Next, I'm gonna cut the bread. So we're gonna toast this. So while the toast is in the oven, I'm going to slice the avocado. Okay, so I'm just giving it a stir so everything is incorporated. So the bread is ready. So now I'm going to assemble the avocado fava bean toast. So I'm gonna take this, fan it out. So now I'm gonna add the fava beans on top of the avocado. I'm gonna add the chili oil. So this might look like a lot of chili oil, but it's actually not because it's not that spicy. It's really more for the umami, the taste and the texture. I'm also going to add some black pepper and then finish it off with some sesame seeds. Again, for texture.
All right, so now we're gonna taste the avocado fava bean toast. I definitely like the chili oil. This might look like a lot of chili oil, but it's really not a lot. This is more fragrant than spicy. So actually there's barely any spice in here.
So I feel like the fava beans by itself, it really doesn't have that much flavor. The fava bean taste itself is very, very mild.
It's almost like avocado. You need some flavoring. That's why we use this. And I think by adding both avocado and fava beans, it's a good way for you to incorporate fava beans into your diet because fava beans are very seasonal. They're only available in the spring, late spring, early summer, depending on where you live. And it's very nutritious. It's a great way to get some organic, nutritious food into your diet.
Thank you everyone for watching, and we hope you enjoyed this episode of us growing, harvesting, and using fava beans.
And please share below in the comments what you do with your fava beans. And
we'll see you in the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.